Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Okay, Gurudev, I think yesterday we may have done the recording of the Tattva Bodh. I wasn't there for the whole session, but we'll continue from where we left a few days ago. So we did this. Not doing karma also requires a doer. We are on the 17th shloka of chapter 4. So just to get the results of action belong to the doer. So who do you ascribe the doing to? We have the karya karana sanghata. That is the body mind sense complex. Right? So the I, aham is also involved. So when you say the mind, senses, and physical body are all involved in the action. So the physical body is called karya, and the mind and senses are called karana, meaning instrument. Therefore, when this assemblage of karya and karana is involved in the action, that belongs to me. That is why I say I perform this action. The I is also implied in action. I meaning Atma. So the results of the action belong to the doer. So when I say I am the doer, I am also the enjoyer. On whom is the doership and enjoyship centered? It is centered on myself. The question then arises is the I, the Atma, a doer or a non-doer? If Atma is a karta, then I definitely perform action karma, which produces a result for me. This is real karma, binding karma. And then we saw how the different kinds, some 6 karakas that are there. So no action is possible without there being an agent, a doer. And also there has to be an object, the agent of the action of going. That is Ramaha Gachati. Where does Rama go? Rama goes to the forest. So there are several things connected to the action. When whatever is connected to an action, because of which the action is made possible, is called Karaka. And we saw there are 6 different Karakas, right? So from where does he go? With what does he go on a chariot? Why does he go? So all of that comes into the 6 different Karakas. So not doing karma also requires a doer. Returning now to the first Karaka, the Karta, Shankara says that whether you say, I did this action or I did not do this action, the I, the Ahankara is involved. Both the doing, pravritti, and the not doing, nivritti, are centered on Ahankara, the Karta. Therefore, if I am the Karta, I am the Karta in both action as well as inaction. But if I am not the Karta, then there is no action at all for me because all action depends upon the Karta. If I am someone who is not an actor, then I perform no action. Na kinchit karma karomi. The I is always free from action. It does not do any action. Atma neither does an action nor impels or prompts anything to act. Na karoti, na karayati. Mistaking action for inaction and inaction for action. If Atma is neither of these, neither a simple karta nor a karayita, one who causes action to be done, how can there be any karma? And if there is no karma, why does Krishna simply not say so? Why does he talk about seeing inaction, inaction? Karmani akarmaya pashyet. The problem here, Shankara says, is that we superimpose kartritva on the Atma, which is really akarta, and say, I do this action or that action, when really the action belongs to the Karya Karana Sanghata. To illustrate this problem, Shankara gives an example that everyone can relate to. When you are in a boat moving in a river, you see the trees on the river's bank moving in the opposite direction. Even though you are moving in one direction, the trees seem to be moving in the other, and you seem to be constant. What does this mean? The trees are not really moving at all. They are not performing any action. But in these trees that are really standing still, you see an action. Akarmani karma darshanam. This kind of seeing is called viparita darshana, erroneous sight. Secondly, as long as there is this notion, I am the karta, merely not doing any action does not make one an akarta. Therefore, whenever one says, I am sitting quietly, I am not doing any action, aham tushnim asam nakinchit karomi, this person considers himself to be a karta. Therefore, he is doing the action of not doing any action. To illustrate this, Shankara gives the following example. Suppose you are standing on the river bank and looking at the boat. which is moving away from you. Having reached a certain distance, the boat seems not to be moving at all. To you, it appears stationary. Thus, an object can also appear to be constant when it is actually moving very fast. An example of this, one not available to Shankara in his time, is a movie on a screen. Although it is a movie, a succession of rapidly moving frames, things like trees, mountains, and so on, appear to us to be stationary. Here then you see inaction, inaction, karmani, akarma darshanam. Thus, in the world, we see karma in akarma and akarma in karma. Similarly, with reference to karma and akarma themselves, there is viparita darshana, seeing what is not there. Darshana means sight, seeing, and viparita means other than what is. The self does not perform any action, and therefore there is no action. The action you see is really inaction. In other words, there is no action in action because Atma is akarta. Knowing this, the wise person performs action, but at the same time knows he does not perform it at all. Doing, the person does not do. Kurvan na karoti. Seeing, the person does not see. Pashyan na pashyati. Hearing, the person does not hear. Shrunvan na shrunoti. Similarly, smelling, one does not smell. Tasting, one does not taste. Walking, one does not walk. Talking, one does not talk. Thinking, one does not think. Even being confused, the person is not confused. A wise person can be confused in that his or her mind can become confused with reference to a particular thing. For example, there may be confusion about the direction to be taken in order to reach a certain place. Thus, being confused, the person is not confused, does not mean that the wise do not get confused. What does all this mean for the wise? The I, the Atma, in the statement, I am confused, remains untouched by any action because it does not perform any action. If a man is acting, we say he is acting. And if he is not, we say he is keeping quiet. But is there really a time when he is not doing action? Keeping quiet simply means the person does not have a job. And he may not even keep quiet. He may talk a lot, eat a lot, hang around a lot, and at the same time he says he is keeping quiet. Therefore, not doing anything is definitely an action. And for that action, there is an agent, a doer, a karta. Because people think they do action, they also think they do not do action. This is because both the action, pravritti, and the non-action, nivritti, are attributed to Atma instead of to the karta, which is superimposed, aropita, upon the Atma. In this way, Atma is taken to be the karta, and the doing or not doing of an action, which is centered on that karta, is mistakenly attributed to Atma. So, up until now, What we have seen is it is not grammatically action in action and inaction in action, like in the locative case. Like we say, the book is on the table or the rose is in my hand. It's not like that, but it is with reference to karma. The wise person sees akarma. And with reference to akarma, they see karma. How in these two beautiful examples that Shankara gave, one is when you are moving in the boat, you see that the trees which are actually stationary are moving in the opposite direction. So what is one seeing? One is seeing karma in akarma. And the other example is of you are stationary on the bank, but you're seeing a boat moving fast. Once it reaches the horizon, after that, although it is moving, you see that it is stationary. An example of modern day example is a movie. A movie screen, there are very rapid moving of frames. But to us, it appears as if it is stationary. So, what are we seeing? We are seeing akarma in karma. Actually, there is karma happening, but we see that it is stationary. Now, similarly, taking one step forward, these things are karma and akarma are nothing but a superimposition upon the I, the Atma. Any action requires a karta and therefore also a bhokta. The karta we have seen is the karya karana sanghat, the physical body, mind, and senses. But that is superimposed upon the Atma. The Atma I is neither a karta nor a bhokta. Therefore, the wise person in whom there is no the superimposition of the karya karana sanghata on the Atma, he sees action in inaction and inaction in action. Which means inaction in action is the person might say, I'm sitting quiet, but is he sitting quiet? There is a lot of activity going on. Even sitting quiet is an action. And when he's actually acting, when he's actually he's performing an action, there is no action with reference to I, the Atma. Action is dependent upon Atma. At the same time, no action is totally independent of Atma. And in Atma, there is no action whatsoever. Because people do not know this, they are under the spell of delusion, ignorance, seeing action in inaction and inaction in action. One who is able to see Atma as Akarta never performs any action, even when he does an action, karma. Such a person will see akarma in karma because he knows that Atma does not perform any action whatsoever. So, even under the spell of delusion or ignorance, people see action in inaction. Take the example of the two examples that Shankara gave. That is of the moving trees and of the stationary boat. So it is Although there is no action happening, we see an action. And although there is action happening, we see inaction. That is under the spell of ignorance, of delusion. Whereas the wise person sees the truth that the Atma is not the Karta. And the intriguing thing is that this action is intimately linked with Atma. Without Atma, no action is possible. But in Atma, there is no action. And what is linking these two is ignorance, is avidya, maya, delusion. And that is the superimposition. If anyone wants to share or add on. The nature of Atma, the self, is in the form of pure consciousness. The very word self implies that which does not need to be revealed to you, the self, by anything else. You require no means of knowledge, no pramana to prove your existence. That which requires no pramana, no means of knowledge, that which is self evident, is the self, Atma. And what is its nature? It is in the form of pure consciousness, knowledge as such. Because Atma is unqualified knowledge, there can be particular knowledge which is nothing but consciousness plus some qualification that appears in the form of knowledge of this or that. Just give me 1 second, I'll be back. So because Atma is unqualified knowledge, there can be particular knowledge which is nothing but consciousness plus some qualification that appears in the form of knowledge of this or that. Knowledge as such must be there before it can be qualified. For example, for there to be pot knowledge, ghata jnana, cloth knowledge, pata jnana, man knowledge, purusha jnana, or women knowledge, stri jnana, there must be knowledge as such, unqualified by anything. This unqualified knowledge is the nature of the Atma. Knowledge as such gets seemingly qualified in the form of thought, vritti. With vritti, knowledge seems to be qualified, and without vritti, it is unqualified. This unqualified knowledge is consciousness, the nature of Atma that performs no action. So, with respect to knowledge, Atma is the nature of pure consciousness. It is self-revealing. It doesn't need to be revealed to you. It doesn't require, no means of knowledge is required to prove your existence, that I remains. So that which requires no pramana, no means of knowledge, that which is self-evident, is the self. And this is pure, unqualified knowledge. That Sat, Chit. Sat is that pure self-evident, the truth that cannot be negated. And then the Chit aspect is this unqualified knowledge. So this, when combines with something else, becomes qualified knowledge. Like all those examples given, pot knowledge, man knowledge, three knowledge, etc. And that appears in the form of a vritti, of a thought. Why do we say that Atma performs no action? One reason is that action implies motion or some change. Try to think of an action without motion, without change. Any motion, any change from one condition to another, from one form to another, is action. Even a chemical reaction is an action. But can we say that Atma, whose nature is consciousness, is subject to action? Consciousness is not subject to motion because, being all pervasive, it is not located at one point for it to move to another point. Consciousness does not move within itself either, nor does it to undergo any change. Consciousness not being an assemblage of things. Only that which is put together can undergo change. Things that are put together will naturally fall apart without anything being done. It is their nature to fall apart, which is also an action. Even a car that is kept unused for 25 years will undergo some change, and a Rolls Royce is no exception. Whether the car is running or not running, it is subject to change, simply because it was put together. Samhatatvat. There is always entropy for things that are put together. A good way to understand entropy is to leave your room as it is for some time without doing anything about it. Just live in it. Don't sweep the floor. Don't clean. Don't put anything back in its own place. What will you have? Entropy. Anything that is put together tends to dissipate, to fall into disorder. This movement from order to disorder is entropy, which is also action. Only the self is not subject to this entropy. Why? Because the self is not put together. It is self-evident. It is what is. And it is all that is there. Because of the self, you can put things together. There is qualified knowledge. There is creation because of the self. Consciousness, the nature of I, the self, does not tend towards disorder because there is no order. Atma not being made up of parts. Only when there is creation is there an order, and therefore disorder. Atma is one whole, limitless in nature. Atma, being not limited in any way, what can it do? It cannot go anywhere because it is not limited place-wise. It cannot change or modify itself into anything. It cannot grow into something or dissolve into something. No action is possible for Atma. There is not even sankalpa, decision in Atma, nor is there any kind of thought, which is also action. To say, I remain quiet means that there are certain other times when I am not able to be quiet. Consciousness does not say this because consciousness is always quiet. Nirvikalpa. Kalpa meaning thought and undergoes no modification. Vikalpa whatsoever. Because there is nothing that is separate from consciousness, Vikalpa is not possible. There is no such thing as a self going into something or reaching out to the world. It has already reached out to the infinite. It is one whole, free from all limitation, in the form of pure, simple consciousness. Atma performs no action, nor does it prompt something else to perform action. And in its presence alone, all activities take place. Let's do some manana on this before moving forward. So here the nature of Atma is what is being described. Atma versus Anatma. The aspect of entropy. Anything that is put together will fall apart. I think the inevitable and steady deterioration of a system or society. That is the meaning of entropy. Let's share our thoughts on this. So consciousness is not just self-evident. Atma is also not made of parts. So because any action requires a change, requires movement from one to another. And because Atma is one whole, is infinite, there is no movement possible, no change possible. And there is not even a thought, nirvikalpa. And since there is no change, and because there is no uh, modification possible, no vikalpa possible, why is there no vikalpa possible? Because there is nothing separate from consciousness. The doer is I, but I is not the doer. When there is an action in the mind, senses, or body, there is the presence of Atma, the Karta being nothing but Atma. Atma is not the Karta, but when the Karta is there, Atma is there. I am not the Karta is a fact that is not known. I know myself only as the Karta. I am the seer, hearer, thinker, doubter, and the worker. I know that I am the doer of all these actions, but I do not know that I am a karta, a non-doer. Not knowing that I am a karta, the karta naturally becomes I for me, and I becomes the karta. In fact, the karta is I, but I is not the karta. The problem occurs when the karta is I and I also is the karta. This happens when the I is not known. So one thing is certain, that without Atma, there is no action possible. But Atma is akarta. So the person who considers karta as I and I also as the karta is an ajnani. Whereas the jnani knows karta is I, but I is not the karta. A person who knows the self sees inaction in action and action in inaction, which is other than that what we generally understand by akarma and karma. Because doership, kartritva is there, akarma is reduced to karma. There being a karta, an agent. For akarma also, the person who says, I do not do any action, is doing action because there is doership. And the person takes himself or herself to be a doer of no action. As long as the karta is there, karma is also there for the person, be it pravritti or nivritti, action or inaction. Both belong to the karta alone.
For any action, that seven things are there, na? Why, who, when, how. So in a karta, a karma, how it will be related then?
It will not be related.
Because a karma is also action, and action we can find action by
Karma is
hmm,
an action as long as
karata.
doer.
Hmm.
As long as there is a doer, even when you say, I am not acting, I am not doing anything. So the jnani sees that I am not doing anything also as karma, because there is doership. But from the space of akartritva, of non-doership, there is no action at all. So here we should understand this karma and akarma with reference to what? In the eyes of the ajnani, it is like those examples given by Shankara. Whereas in the eyes of the jnani, it is seeing actionlessness throughout, whether it is karma or akarma.
Hmm.
It is the knowledge that Atma is not the doer. So with reference to that knowledge, then there is no action, no change possible.
Hmm. Okay, thank you.
So that is why it says, as long as the karta is there, karma is also there for the person. Be it pravritti or nivritti, action or inaction, both belong to the karta alone. When you say, I'm not doing any action, who is that I? That I is the one that is superimposed upon the Atma, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
The one who sees things as they are has wisdom. If the person knows, I am not the karta, he sees akarma in both karma and the so-called akarma. And this person, the one who sees Atma, the self, as one that is free from kartritva, doership, he alone sees, says Krishna. Therefore, the person is called Buddhiman. I will repeat this. If the person knows I am not the karta, he sees akarma in both karma and the so-called akarma. And this person, the one who sees Atma, the self, as one that is free from kartritva, doership, he alone sees, says Krishna. Therefore, the person is called Buddhiman. And the seeing is what? Seeing is understanding. Seeing is knowing. It is with knowledge that you realize that the Atma is akarta. Jnanena, through knowledge alone. The literal meaning of buddhiman is one who has an intellect, buddhi, just as dehavan refers to one who has a physical body, deha. But everyone has a buddhi. Why then does Krishna call this person a buddhiman? Buddhi has to be understood here as wisdom in the form of self-knowledge. Thus, the one who has buddhi has the knowledge of the self and is therefore wise, buddhiman. Wisdom is seeing things as they are. One who sees things as they are in terms of reality has wisdom and is therefore wise. Wisdom does not mean that the person has generated a new line of thinking. Here, Krishna refers to a person who is able to see karma and akarma as they really are, as a buddhiman, a wise person among human beings. Saha buddhiman manushyeshu. Krishna also calls this person a yogi, saha yuktaha, meaning that he or she has lived a life of yoga, which has paid off in terms of wisdom. Yoga being meant for gaining this knowledge, such a person living a life of karma yoga has gained what it had to offer him. He is a real karma yogi, an accomplished yogi. Understanding what is to be understood, he or she is a person of fulfillment. Kritsna karma krit. So the verse says, Karmanyah karmayah pashet, akarmani cha karmayah, sa buddhiman manushyeshu, sa yuktah kritsna karma krit. So Krishna calls him not only buddhiman, because he has understood he's understood the wisdom of the truth of Atma, and he is also a yogi, yuktah. Yoga here in Gita's context means a karma yogi, right? So he has lived a life of karma yoga and has also gained this knowledge. So he is an accomplished karma yogi. Understanding what is to be understood, he or she is a person of fulfillment and therefore becomes a kritsna karma krit. Shall we move on? Samsara is centered on doership. To know oneself as akarta is to know oneself as abhokta, one who is not an enjoyer. If you are not the enjoyer of the results of any action, then there is no punya or papa for you. And when there is no punya or papa, there is no sukha or dukkha, meaning that you are above sukha and dukkha. Sukha and dukkha, being the net result of karma phala, are also karma phala, the result of action. You may have performed a certain karma and received some money. Because of that money, you have a big house and are very comfortable. Because of all this, you are very happy. Being comfortable, being happy is a karma phala for you. Dukkha is also a karma phala. The house you bought turned out to be in a bad neighborhood. You were happy with the house until it was broken into and you were robbed. No matter how many new alarm systems you install, the results are the same. Frequent robberies and vandalism. So the same house that made you sukhi for some time has now made you dukhi, unhappy. Either way, it is all karma phala, punya and papa. You asked for it and you got it. Because all unseen results, punya and papa, fructify in the form of sukha and dukkha, all karmas are capable of producing sukha and dukkha for the karta. As long as I take myself to be the karta, I am subject to sukha and dukkha. To be subject to sukha and dukkha is what is called samsara. Sukha and dukkha themselves are not samsara. The notion that I am subject to them is samsara and makes me a samsari. Gurudev has summed up all of this in just one beautiful sentence. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. There is pain because there is karma phala. Whatever we've done in the past, there is an action that we've done in the past has a result, which can either be punya or papa. It can either be sukha, dukkha. And there is no way of us escaping that. We have to live it through. It's a blueprint that we have placed for ourselves. We cannot be choosy saying, I like only things that make me happy and I will reject those that make me unhappy. They are part of life. Opposites exist in creation. So The understanding that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Suffering is you're considering yourself as the bhokta. And that is samsara. And that is the bondage. So the notion that I'm subject to them, where either sukha or dukkha, either ways, is samsara and makes me a samsari. Samsara is a notion that the physical body is subject to pain is a fact. But if I say that I am subject to pain, there is samsara. I am subject to pain is different from the physical body is subject to pain. If you say the body is subject to pain, it is a simple truth because it states a fact about the empirical world. The creation is like that. The body is endowed with the sensation of pain as a means of protection. Otherwise, one would not pay attention to it. Pain indicates that something is wrong and needs attending to. Therefore, physical pain is an important part of the creation. That the body is subject to pain is true. That I am subject to pain is an opinion, a notion called samsara. So beautiful. These two lines I'll read again. That the body is subject to pain is true. That I am subject to pain is an opinion, a notion called samsara. It is not true because Atma is not the enjoyer of the results of action. Karma phala bhokta. Atma is not the enjoyer because it is not the karta, the doer. One who knows that he or she is not the enjoyer is called kritsna karma krit here. When one is able to recognize oneself as free from doership, he or she becomes free from enjoyership also. Being free from enjoyership means that the punya and papa standing in one's account are all taken care of. Such a person who is free from a sense of doership and enjoyership is called a kritsna karma krit. For him, everything that has to be done now or later has been done. No new incarnation has to be taken by this person. No karma remains to prompt another birth. In this life also, whatever the person thought he or she would do is gone because the person is Ananda, Purna, fullness itself. He or she is above Sukha and Dukkha, liberated from the subjugation of karma, and therefore Kritsna Karma Krit. I think we'll stop here today. We'll take this up tomorrow. Inaction is not the absence of action. So, from the understanding of Atma, Atma is required for any action to be done, but Atma does not do any action. Without Atma, there is no creation. The doership is only superimposed upon the Atma. Because the true nature of Atma is Purna, unqualified knowledge. And it is Nirvikalpa, it is changeless, it's unchanging. No motion, no movement is possible. So therefore, there is no action possible. But in the presence of Atma, all action happens. So you cannot de-link Atma from the action. That superimposition is there. So the one who sees this reality, this truth, is a wise person, buddhiman. And he is saha yuktaha. He's an accomplished yogi. And he is also a kritsna karma krit. Because everything that has to be done is done by him. Because why? His karma account is closed once and for all. The account is no more active, deleted once and for all. So there's no more punya papa for him to take another birth. And sukha and dukkha are for the person, only for the doer, for the karta. Samsara is for the doer. Suffering is for the person who thinks I, the Atma, is the physical body. This aropita, this physical body, Atma is superimposed upon the body is superimposed upon the Atma. So there's pain in the physical body, which is natural. But that superimposition makes you feel that I am suffering, and that I, for an ajnani, is superimposed upon the Atma. The small I is superimposed on the big I. So one who sees the truth of the I, of Atma, as akarta, abhokta, is one who is a buddhiman. So we'll stop here today. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.